Hello and welcome to Push Your Glasses Up. I'm Mikey, and I am joined by my old pal, once again, Ryan Wilson, who was here over the summer to talk about the Jurassic franchise with me. He is here to talk about The Lord of the Rings of Power, Season 1. We're both real Middle-earth heads. There's a better way to say that. But, so I'm really excited to talk about this whole season and our thoughts on what it means for tone and spirit of Tolkien rather than just being, page by page transfer. But hey, if you enjoy these videos, the podcast episodes, the trailer reactions on YouTube, subscribe to the channel and like the videos if you can. I would appreciate it a great deal. But if you're more interested in the audio only format, you can go to any podcast service you choose and check out Push Your Glasses Up. We should be on there. If not, I don't know what to tell you. The RSS feed does a lot of that work. It's out of my hands. Let's go talk about some elves and stuff. Welcome back to the show, Ryan.
Hey, Mikey, how's it going, man?
It's okay. Better than you this past week.
Yeah. It was actually my first run-in with the COVID, and it was a butt kicker. And I just got my booster too. Like, I actually think I got COVID I went to the doctor like 6 times in the last 2 weeks, and
so you got it while you were there.
Probably.
Yeah.
No one at work is out. No one else at work is sick. So. But I'm feeling good, feeling great. We're recovering. We got tea. We're gonna be okay.
You have lung capacity to speak, so that's
yes.
The most important thing right now.
It's more than I had like 3 days ago.
Perfect. Cool. Well, we're here to talk about The Lord of the Rings of Power. Says it above my head over there. So what did you think in general, before we get into spoilers? What did you think of the show?
I mean, I loved it. I was a huge Lord of the Rings nerd when I was a teenager. In fact, I would pretty squarely blame Lord of the Rings on me not doing good in school. Because I was just like deep diving into the Silmarillion or whatever. But I think I
did terrible in school because I was reading.
Correct. Just not the right stuff. I was like math. That man, I'm fucking learning Kenya or whatever the heck it's called. They nailed the energy, the Tolkien kind of spirit. The music is insane. The language is insane. It looks like they spent $1 billion on it, which is what I want out of a Lord of the Rings TV show. Like, I'm like, if it looks good and they don't screw it up too much, I'm happy. Like, I'm as big a Lord of the Rings nerd as anyone, but I'm also not like, oh, you changed this, you ruined everything. Because frankly, like I would hate the movies too if that was the case. So
there's plenty different there.
Great. I mean, this finale happened, and I was like, I have to wait a year for this shit. Like, and that's what you want out of a fantasy TV show. So
yeah, and I would say we have to wait at least a year.
Yeah.
Like we'll see if it even makes that year.
Fingers crossed for next fall, please. Like, I hope they made a ton of money and they're just funneling it right back into the next season.
They're filming right now, so yeah, that's good. And they have a 5-season plan, which is also good to have like a definitive plan on top of things. But I am in the same boat with you. I think that this is a series that captures the essence of Tolkien more than anything. I think, there's obviously like Easter eggs that are like canon stuff, Easter eggs that are definitively the same as what was in the pages and in the movies and stuff before. But realistically, like, you can't
fit all this stuff.
You can't rely on that to be one for everything, because listen, I love the stories that Tolkien tells. I think he's a little too verbose in those stories.
I was literally going to say the dude spends 30 pages describing trees. Like,
exactly.
You can't nail
and that's
everything.
That's great. He's an environmentalist and he loves trees. I love that.
Yeah.
But
yeah, we love trees.
And that's something that like it comes through in this show, but like it's something that they had to like modify to fit the overall like style of the show. On top of that, I've also, as much as I love the MCU and Star Wars shows, and or particularly is like blowing me away right now, but
I've heard really good things.
It's so good, dude. But the thing with those shows is up until She-Hulk, I would say they haven't quite known their format yet. She-Hulk, they captured sitcoms really well, like the Ally McBeal style sitcom, not like the 3-camera live audience thing so much, but what it needed to capture, it captured well, and it translated into a weekly series that worked.
Right.
So I'm out of practice with shows that actually like feel like shows. So like one of the most impressive things to me for some reason, for that reason really, is that it feels like a TV show. Like each episode has its beginning, middle, end moment, and that fits into the structure of a beginning, middle, end of the season. And so I'm just thrilled that like whenever I sat down with an episode of the show, I was just like fulfilled with that energy. But yeah, on top of that, like the tone and vibe of it feeling like you're even more than like the Lord of the Rings movies, which like, look, you and I, out of anyone we worked with in particular, we were always like sending Lord of the Rings memes back and forth to one another.
Yeah.
But I feel like the movies are great Middle-earth stories, but even the extended versions, you don't necessarily feel like you're living in it. Whereas I do think that like, even if this story doesn't hit as directly as the movies did, I think that the vibe of this show allows you to feel like you're existing in Middle Earth even more than the movies do.
No, the movies, I think a lot of the weight of the movies is carried by the cast. Like they just nailed, and frankly got really lucky with Viggo, and like because they had not casted him, and then he was a late addition. Like,
well,
and then,
yeah,
you know,
they hadn't cast him. They cast somebody else who,
and then fired him, and then cast him, and like Viggo is like literally.
By the way, this came up recently, which was I am so glad that happened, because turns out that guy turned into a real right-wing nut job.
Oh yeah. Yeah, not surprised. He probably blames liberals for losing Aragorn. That being said, like I rewatched those movies because like that's Gandalf in my head, and like all those, they all just are those people,
right?
And it's not like the show, the feel like the going into this, I was like, hell yeah, like elves doing crazy stuff, like we're gonna have big battles, blah blah blah. What I loved about the show is Elrond and Durin and like the Harfoots. Like I was like, this is some Tolkien shit. Like fuck me up. It's so good. You know what I mean? Like it was so great.
Yeah.
Just like they nailed the energy of those interactions. It's very like there's so much whimsy in this show, and like the whole like first half of Fellowship is just like these dudes like smoke tobacco and like garden, and then they go like walk somewhere and run into like Tom Bombadil, and some crazy stuff happens. Like, you know what I mean? It's like all whimsy.
And there's a long time before Frodo actually like leaves on the journey.
Yeah,
but it's condensed. Like years. It's condensed a lot for the movies, which, you know, again, has to be done. But like, it's the different structures that we're basically getting at here. But like, you spoke about the music, and Bear McCreary, man,
dude, just like.
Dude's about to pop off again because God of War Ragnarok comes out.
Oh, did he do that too?
He did the first one. I'm assuming he did the second one.
Great. Can't wait to spend $80 on that. That'll be fun.
It's 70. It's 70.
Okay.
And the complications with PlayStation stuff right now. This is the final cross-generation game. So I think the PS4 version is gonna be the old price of 60. The PS5 version is 70.
Okay.
Deluxe editions on top of that.
I was gonna say, and then there's all the additions.
Get yourself the statue version, you know that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like he goes off, and it like this show made me go back and watch. I want to say it was the 2016 E3 press conference where he was doing a live, or he was conducting the orchestra for all of the music in that entire showcase. So any trailer they showed, he was doing it live. But like the beginning of it was the reveal for God of War. And it was like,
Right.
it's 10 minutes. It's 10 minutes. They're not showing the game. They're just having him pop off as conductor with the orchestra, and it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And so
He's
like,
great, man.
I truly think like he's always been great, like your Battlestar Galactica, all that stuff. It's always been good. Yeah. But I think these last few years, he's really, the way that I love like Michael Giacchino capturing whimsy is the way that I love Bear McCreary capturing epic.
Yeah.
And it's oh man, it's such a perfect pairing for this.
And he honestly just like, everything's distinct, but all sounds Lord of the Ringsy.
Yep.
You know what I mean? He took the vein from Howard Shore and was like, I'm gonna go wild with all these different races and combos.
Yep.
But it's all gonna sound like it would just fit right. It's the music and the set design and the costumes.
Poppy's
like
song.
Dude.
Oh. I like, if that's not nominated for like best original song is a weird way to put it, but best song.
If that song doesn't win an Emmy, I will riot.
Yeah,
it's so good. Like I was like I mean, I watched the show. Usually, I'd watch it like Thursday or whatever, Friday at midnight after I got home from my shift on Thursday.
Right.
And I was just like not in an emotional state for that song at all the first time it came on. Dude, I was like, It was the epitome of like getting the show gets everything right as far as all that tone stuff goes. But that was the moment that solidified it, because it was early enough in the season where it's like, it could still tip over the other way. It could still like the boat could get rocked. However, right.
But that was the
shark.
Yeah. And that was the moment where I was just like, no, I think we're in for it here. I think they're actually gonna like hit it the whole way through. And like, basically they did. Like, pacing aside, I think there was a little bit of slowdown in that first sort of section in the beginning.
Yeah.
But honestly, on the other side of that, it allows you to get to know the characters more and connect to them a little bit stronger. So my biggest complaint is that it started out like a slow burn, and then at the end it was like, we're going. And I was like, when did the gear shift happen that all of a sudden we're just like flying through stuff? That's sort of a concession that every show makes now too. It's a little unfortunate. The final two episodes always feel fast.
Yeah. And they also, I think originally we're going to do 10 episode seasons and settled on 8, if I think I read. And like, that makes sense that like the last 2 episodes, it was just like bang, 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 bang. Like,
right.
Yeah.
But they didn't adjust any of the other episodes. They just did those 2 episodes.
Yeah. They were just like, okay, so we're just going to do all this shit right at the end. But yeah, I thought all the actors were great. I mean, Robert, what is it? Arameo, the guy who plays Elrond, like I was skeptical because I didn't like him in the Game of Thrones.
Young Ned. Yeah.
Young Ned. I was like, who cast this dude? And then, like,
honestly, I basically know none of the actors' names in this show because there's just so many of them that I'm like, I have to focus on remembering the names of the characters, or else this is not.
I'll use character names. That's fine. The guy who plays Elrond is great. The guy who plays Durin is incredible.
Gil-galad, I know as Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, and that's how it works. So yeah.
I think the important thing with something so like grand as like the amount of time we're talking about here, and like the scale of this story, which is thousands of years in the book, like. I think they just did a really good job of like connecting the audience to these characters who you're like, you recognize these names, but you really don't know like what was going on. Right. Because I remember like there's a lot of like the first or maybe the first 2 episodes, there was a lot of blowback on like the Galadriel stuff. And I was just like, okay, like casuals, like Galadriel was a badass, and like, you know what I mean? Like she did a ton of dope stuff.
She's been around.
She was just like in her trees,
literally thousands of years. She wasn't just hanging out in the woods.
Yeah. So like, I was thrilled. I loved it. It transported me to a different place, which is all I want out of a fantasy TV show. And I mean, like outside of Thrones, like it's the best. It's the best fantasy TV show.
Tough to compare with like one
one
season versus whole show, but like
yeah.
Potentially,
like, think about like the Wheel of Time show or the Sword of Truth show. They're all bad. Like I watch them because I'm that guy, but like this is like they clearly picked the right people to run the show. So
yeah, I'm curious to like. It's easy to say, even with the drop off, that Game of Thrones is like the biggest deal fantasy show of all time. And probably the best, even if that's only through like 4 or 5 seasons, you can say that kind of. And then an episode here or there of just like the Battle of the Bastards obviously is kick-ass episode, but like
Winds of Winter is the best episode of TV ever. I think so.
So it's like
it's insane.
It's hard to compare. I think the potential is there to surpass that though. And I think the groundwork has been laid for it to surpass it already. Which is promising. And
honestly, like I hate obviously House of Dragon is going right now. I
haven't seen a single episode of it.
Oh, it's fire. There's like one episode I haven't liked. I was like so out at the start. I was like, man, this up. I don't want to deal with this.
It's just
and then I'm just like
fantasy. I am like I'm in on one and not going to be in on another just because I'm focused on this. And it's sort of the same with sci-fi, except I can balance Star Wars and Star Trek out because they're so different.
They're so different. Yeah. No, it definitely like they're so different tonally. Like sometimes I watch Thrones and I'm like I feel dirty after. I never it's grimy. I stopped watching Rings of Power and I'm like I'm gonna go on a walk. Like I'm gonna go on a hike. Like,
that's the thing is there's a warmth in the visuals in Lord of the Rings, in the Rings of Power. I think we're gonna wind up interchanging that a lot. Just like House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones kind of get that too. Right. But like on that end, you get that grimy, like everybody's muddy. But even in the moments that are like that in Lord of the Rings, like the flashback in Galadriel's sort of introduction of her brother in that battle, like there's still a shine, like the armor comes through and it's like
it's still a high elf, you know?
Yeah. So it like there's something about it that just is warm and welcoming versus that like down and dirty side of and that's like that's very much a to each their own kind of thing. But for me, I'm far more in the Lord of the Rings side.
Give me the shiny. Yeah.
I see that ring coming through the murky water and I reach for it.
There you go.
So we can I will do this to timestamp myself. But we can talk about big spoiler stuff now. Okay.
Cool. What are I called Halloran as Sauron first episode. Peter, my friend Peter is my witness. I was like, no fucking way, this dude is. I was just like, that motherfucker right there for sure.
I'll try
episode, whenever he gets introduced, I was just like that dude.
I'll try to drag Peter away from his synths to get proof on that. But yeah, that is obviously like the big one.
The big one. Yeah.
I think they played it well with the which one is it, because they gave us 2 options. But I think it was very clear that like the one that looks like a wizard is gonna be a wizard.
Yeah.
And the one hanging out with the Harfoots, who will eventually like hobbits, is kind of like
I thought the misdirection with the stranger was that it was gonna be Saruman.
Right.
I was like, we're gonna think it's Gandalf.
Could still be
weird things. Yeah.
I mean, I
don't know. He said to follow your nose thing. I know. I was like,
there's notes. There's notes that are very much Gandalf, but it's like you could read this other one multiple ways, which is when he's handed the staff, because Gandalf's name means staff elf. Like it's just there, but like it's also it's not his staff, which usually looks a little more organic, whereas Saruman's is that sort of more industrialized metal. So it did feel a little bit like that. So I think they're still playing with that a little bit, but leaning more Gandalf, obviously.
I wouldn't be shocked if it wasn't. Gandalf,
Right.
but I think it's Gandalf now.
Yeah.
Especially after the last episode. I have to tell you, man, the finale, like, that was like mac and cheese. I just ate that shit up. Like every piece of dialogue, I was like, oh my God. Like the whole Halbrand, like I've had many names, and then they go into the dream.
Dude.
And he's just like talking about her being a terrible queen. I was like shaking my bed.
The turning camera to reveal the reflection of their silhouettes. Oh, it's so good.
It slapped, man. It was so good. But like, yeah, like it, you know, I know everything that happens or that's gonna happen, so I'm just like, now I'm like, okay.
On paper, we know the generalities. It's the details that we're gonna experience that are gonna be like, this is where it's exciting.
So I'm like, okay, like he's gonna end up going back to Numenor. He's gonna end up going back to Celebrimbor. Like they've only forged the 3 rings,
right?
And it's just like, so there's more shenanigans afoot, is all I'm saying. I think it was really smart of them to not just have him be an elf. I can't remember what his fake elf name was off the top of my head right now. But
Adar?
It starts with an
A. Adar, right?
Yeah. Right?
I think that's something what it is.
Like that. Someone's gonna come after us in the comments. But he has to go back. They have to make all the rest of the rings.
Right.
So like I like that they were like, we're not just gonna, like, everybody knows Sauron's guys.
Yeah.
When he's with the elves, so like we're gonna not have it be that. Like I thought that was smart. I like am really interested to see how it goes with the stranger going east. Like I'm really like the guy who our Pharazôn guy is a huge tool in the books. I'm excited to see how that pans out. Like it's really shocking to me that they didn't show Isildur in the last episode. We never met his brother, which they've kind of alluded to this whole time. So I'm guessing we're going to meet Anarion in the next season. What
if this version they do an identity theft and Isildur's brother is Isildur?
Jesus Christ, man! I don't like.
There's gonna that would be too much to. That'd be. I would be happy to like experience it and see how the internet reacts to it, but it's probably not a good idea. But,
I have to say, we didn't mention this earlier. The design on the orcs, like going back to the
orcs are fantastic,
insane, and like scary. Like the scene when they're like in the house and the orc like is digging the tunnel.
Yep,
that shit. I was legitimately like, I felt like I was watching the Descent or something. I was like, what is happening? This is so good.
I think that was J.A. Bayona doing that, who is a horror director.
Yeah,
he
horror guy,
obviously did Fallen Kingdom as well, and that's why it has some of those like claustrophobic monster in the house stuff. But yeah, it's that moment was fantastic for me because it's like the orcs and Uruk-hai and goblins and whatnot of the Jackson trilogy are great, but they're more of an army, whereas like they're always scary because there's numbers. And there's that one moment with Aragorn with the one-on-one face-off, which is intimidating but not scary necessarily. But it's this thing where like this movie made one orc at a time scary, or this show rather. But it's also really interesting how they managed to do that, because it is like a lot of this is them as a mass. Like we don't talk to individual orcs that often in this, right? So it's like, but they managed to make the personality of the handful that we come through as intimidating or scary through those interactive moments. So yeah,
I feel like the orcs in the original trilogy had big like they're bad because they're bad vibes, like they're just the bad guys, which is like kind of how the book reads too. And this just added like a layer of depth to it that I thought was really cool. And then they just like were like clearly we're like looked at the Hobbit trilogy and we're like, we will not do this again. We will put people in 3 hours of makeup every day, which is just perfect.
Unless it's like a real wide shot, but yeah.
Like there was it. was one of the big things from those earlier episodes that I was like, oh, they really like nailed this part. Like this is like, I was never scared of the orcs like when I saw the trilogy, because I was like, I'd read the books and I was like, none of these people matter, whatever.
Right.
But like,
they're goons.
They're goons. Yeah, they're like henchmen.
Yeah.
You know? And then like in this one, I was like, ooh, this guy's just got the knife and he's licking it.
Now
it's shit's crazy.
It goes from goons to mid boss.
Yeah,
we're at that
exactly.
level. I love that they leaned into the sunlight aspect of it more too, which like you can right away with the Lord of the Rings trilogy with like, well, time has passed and they have found this way to let
half-breeds.
Yeah, exactly. Daywalkers. They've bladed it up. But yeah, like, and they tease that in this show. Like, that is sort of one of the things where he says at one point, like, oh, I wish you, my children, could walk in this or feel the sunlight the way that I do. And so it's an interesting way that they handled it, where it's like, it's 90% the old way with like, they can't be in the light, but like, they're getting that nod to the future of like where that would come into play. And I think that it was cool that they handled that in that way.
Oh, definitely. Otherwise, like, I mean, listen, man, like, I think first seasons I think people kind of forgot, like, I'll use Game of Thrones as an example again, like, because, you know, a lot of people said it was slow or boring. And I was like, other than like the first and the 9th episode of Game of Thrones, the first season, like when Bran gets pushed out and when Ned gets killed, it's not exactly like blowing through stuff in the first season.
The first season of Game of Thrones is also more, Game of Thrones in general is a more political show.
Yeah.
Which is like, that should be slower, obviously. Like, that's the point. But like, I think that this show started that way, but turned it on. Whereas like,
they like ramped it up, and like, I'm curious, my biggest, I guess, speculation is like, is it just like, are we just on now? Or is it just like full throttle ahead for 8 episodes next season? Or are they going to do the same thing? Are they going to introduce these new characters and kind of build it up? And then like the last 3 episodes are just...
I think they'll probably start out with a bang and come down a little bit, because then you have to do the establishment of Sauron actually being in control of the Southlands of Mordor now. And it's, so, but like, that's a huge thing that we didn't even mention is like, what's interesting is I don't think anybody talked about the show this way going into it, in that it was going to be an origin story for the lands.
Yeah.
Which is cool as hell, just as an idea and a concept, to be like, oh no, this is how we develop the map. And it's just a cool way to handle that.
And honestly, like, I think the whole Isildur storyline, I feel like he's gonna, like, Gondor's just gonna start. It's not gonna be Gondor yet, but it's gonna start like getting built right now.
Right.
Like, they're just gonna be like, all right, we gotta, like, Minas Ithil and stuff is gonna go up. We gotta keep an eye on all this shit going on in the Southlands. You know what I mean? And like, it definitely, like, my least favorite moment in the whole show was when they changed Southlands to Mordor with the font. I was like, come on, guys, you don't, like, we get it. It's a little
cheesy, but I do.
I didn't hate it. But I think like, this is just for the casuals.
Well, that's the thing, is it's not just for like, it's Amazon. It's for a wide audience. So I think that is a stylistic concession that you kind of have to have, right?
But I mean, the volcano exploding, all of that, I was like 2 thumbs up from Ryan. This is some dope shit.
Oh yeah, and just the way that they revealed why the orcs were digging, because like the way that we all assume it would be is just that, like, well, they're digging because they can't be in the sun, because they established that they can't be in the sun.
Right.
And to have it actually turn out to be these aqueducts that are going to funnel the water after the dam is blown, good, like, that is a solid reveal.
They did. I literally, like, all I needed out of this show was like to feel like the similar feeling to how I felt like seeing Fellowship in the theaters the first time,
Right.
and they nailed it. You know what I mean? Like, they're gonna change things. They're gonna time crunch. They're gonna like none of that stuff bothers me. You know, as big a Lord, like I'm not gonna sit here and nitpick because I like enjoying things. So like, it's never gonna ruin a movie or a TV show for me. But like, every time Elrond and Durin were on TV, I was like, Elrond and Durin buddy cop TV show, like spin it off right now. Like, let's rock. I'm ready. And just like the Harfoots, like I was just like, this. I mean, the Harfoots are almost a completely show invention, and like they crushed it. They just crushed it.
In the extra details, I think. Right? Yeah.
And like that is like quintessential Tolkien. Like is just like friendship and like perseverance and like having these feelings where like, you know, the light prevails against the darkness and stuff like that. And like,
and not being complacent to stay in sort of the place that you've been set into. Which is like, obviously like the Harfoots eventually evolve into the Hobbit living and everything.
Or they go and find the Shire, whatever it is.
Exactly. Which is like, that's the whole other thing is like, this whole thing kind of felt like, are they going to figure it out? Are they going to say, when are they going to get up there? Because
you're going the wrong way.
So it is that thing where I'm like, it's familiar enough, but like it's changed enough as well to feel fresh. But like it has both that new and familiar feel with that race as well. But like, I think the show just does, I mean, it does groups well in general, but I think it does pairings of characters extremely well.
Yeah.
So you have Elrond and Durin, you have Galadriel and Halbrand, you have Nori and the Stranger, and it's I think that having the tertiary characters as well is great, and it helps flesh out scenes and everything. But like the way that they actually handle just two people at a time is one of the reasons why this show works really well, because it gives you focus. It allows you to actually just sit with two people discussing something for an like extended period of time. Like, and like Arondir and Bronwyn, like I think that's a thing that is in the Jackson trilogy. We have romance a little, like we have, you know, we have that Vigo and Liv stuff going on, but it's like,
or even, I mean, even like
they're partially
Eowyn and Aragorn, like slightly, even though Aragorn's like spurning her, but like,
but this feels more like a classic romance novel, if you will. Like it differentiates itself from like, that feels like a big budget movie romance in the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
You
where
have
it's just
to,
like
you have
to have a love thing for the women to come watch this movie.
That's.
But like this actually has genuine tones of like the romance novels with like the painted covers on it and stuff. Feels like it's the perfect, like taking that and plopping it into Middle Earth. Like it worked really well, and it was like you could feel the tension. Like there was that romance feel a little bit in the original trilogy, but like you feel the tension with these characters with Bronwyn and Arondir. I mean, so it's
and frankly, like I don't think Tolkien really, like all the good, like the great love stories of the Lord of the Rings universe happen in the Silmarillion. Like none of that. Like I mean, other than Aragorn,
and they're kind of more regal as opposed to like,
or it's like
thirsty.
You have to go get this Silmaril to get my daughter, and the dude's just like, yeah, I got you, dog, and then he goes and does it. Like that's just some like
for the hand of my daughter, you have to go on a fetch quest. Yes. Some real like old school Zelda shit. But
100%.
I just, there were some things I do wish that were handled a little, like I liked Theo but I wish I liked that story a little more.
All the Southland stuff was a little flat for me, but like I liked that it was there. Do you know what I mean?
Well, it gave the real life perspective, right? It gave the like the people here, like 60% of them are like shitty
scumbags,
racist assholes. Like they're terrible. And you get that right away. Like the first moment you see Arendir, it's you the people in
somebody calls him a pointy ear or something. You're
like, the small town bar, like when you go back to your hometown and you this is the bar at like your
Southland's definitely voted for Trump for sure,
right? And it's I think that they established it well. It's just like little details within that section of the show that I think could have been a little better, just in terms of like there's not like, why is there no answer to Theo being the secret child of those two? Like, come on, he should be. If he's not, it is stupid. He looks literally like both of them smushed together. And it's just these extra details of like that could have pushed it over the edge to be a great thing, and this could have been a little bit like, this is the one place where I do feel like I didn't overall love everything. I think it was fine and good, but like I'm just not as passionate about it as everything else.
A lot of this, they did such a good job with like Easter, like you mentioned the Easter eggs earlier.
Yep. Like
every scene in Numenor, you're like, there's something in the background where you're like, what the like I'm pausing the screen and like staring at it.
Yeah. Like
the internet for a hot second thought that Narsil was in like the tower where the Palantir is. Right. And I was just like frame by frame going through every fucking artifact in that room. I was like, where is it? But like they did such a good job. Like I can't remember, her name's Joanna something. She's on Twitter, but a lot of Renaissance I think it's 18th century art was used as inspiration for like the art on like the murals and stuff, and like they just like were sneaking little things in like everywhere. And I feel like the Southlands didn't have those kind of hooks, like where like, you know, you're in Linden and you're like, ooh, we've never been to Linden before. You know what I mean? Like we've never been to Numenor before. And like in the Southlands, you're like, I am in a farmstead in like what we assume will be eventually Mordor, right? Like, so it I don't want to say it was like a weak point, but it was definitely the hardest thing for me to get behind too. Like, also, like, you know, I feel like this age and the previous age are like about elves, and like it feels a little like they're just like, well, there's like the men are like the men are coming, right? Men as a people are coming up, and we're just, like, it's just like, here we're gonna like, other than the Numenorians, there's these other people, but they're just like they live in farms.
Yeah, and it's like the race of men has not established themselves as redeemed yet. So it's like they're in this in between of like they're not overall listed as good and worthy of like the elves' time, and like it's a weird, because there is like both sides of the coin on the racism in this world, where it's like it's the not giving men a chance aspect on the elf side, whereas on the men's side, it's literally surface level
too, right? I mean,
exactly. I think, but it's like on the men's side, like looking at elves, they're literally surface level dumb racism, where it's like the pointy ear thing is like, oh, you stupid, you're such a fucking internet commenter just transported into like this fantasy world.
Pretty much,
but yeah, I'm interested to see how they develop that with Sauron being in charge of this area now. And I do like the way that they handled, like you were talking, we again brought up the Easter egg thing. I like how they took the solving the mystery thing at the beginning and made it like, it kind of looks like it could be the eye of Sauron, the symbol that's like the fork. It could be that,
and it's the mountain range,
but it's literally a map, and it's like,
yeah.
Those reveals were just like
I went way too deep
so
on that
well.
thing. I was like, is this the sword of I've like in like Silmarillion pages, like, ooh, which sword? Like, what is this?
Yeah,
and then it was just a goddamn good key to open a door, but that's okay.
But then there were
that's good mystery.
Like, there were references to like swords we know in different shots of like in Rivendell and stuff. So it's like, it's cool that I think like an Easter egg is done perfectly when it's like, hey, if you know, you know, instead of being like Easter egg holding up a sign. So it's like the way that they took care of that aspect of the show, I think they did really well as well. But also just like the in your face nods were also well done. Like,
I thought they could have held on to the Balrog.
Well, yeah, I was like,
just like have the leaf drop, but it doesn't need to drop right in front of the goddamn Balrog. Like
it's
it make a noise, have it do something. Don't show it on screen.
I mean, you could just have the leaf erupt in fire too, and that would be it.
Yeah,
but like,
or just like whatever, just like melt or whatever.
Yeah,
wherever
but then like, because I think they were like, well, we modeled it for this other shot with the flashback of the tree, so we have it. So let's use it. But like
the how Mithril was made.
That's where I'm like, when they actually drop the Mithril into the molten ore and it's spinning and
it starts spinning
and it shows the eye, I'm like, that's that's like the over the top stuff that's still good, where it's like, you like, it's just an extra, that's icing on the cake kind of reference, where it's just like, nice.
I mean, that
nice
last
job.
episode was like wall to wall. I mean, it's Gandalf saying "follow your nose." Or Gandalf the Stranger saying the "follow your nose" thing. It's
Toucan Sam.
Halbrand telling her he wants her to be like a queen, like dark and beautiful. And I was just like sitting there, just like, oh my! It was like candy. I was like, like please, like, and they. And
the song during the credits is just straight from the book.
It's Fiona Apple or something?
Yeah, and it's perfect. That's so good.
They always like, even when it was like Annie Lennox, I was like, we're just swinging for the fences with these.
Nothing has been like more Ryan Wilson than an end credits song in The Lord of the Rings being Annie Lennox.
100%.
Perfect.
100%. Like I literally, unless Carly Rae Jepsen does an end credits song, I don't know how they could top it.
Middle Earth B-sides coming up. Yeah, I don't know, man. I am like minor, not even negatives, just like
quips.
Could have been better. Things about this show aside, like I am so thrilled with how the first season has come out, and I'm super excited to see like where they take it from here, because it is, like you said earlier, it's a prequel. We know where it's going, but it's the how that I'm like,
yeah. I mean, I was casually optimistic and am thrilled. Let's put it that way. Like, I was like, I hope it's good. They're putting a lot of money into it. At least it'll, like, my mindset before I started watching was like, it'll look good.
At least we'll be able to like pause the screen and use a screenshot for a desktop.
Yeah,
like, there's at least that.
And then I like, I'm in. Like, I'll watch it all. Like, put it on. Give me 5 seasons.
Also,
6 seasons in a movie. Let's rock.
Also, Disa, so cool.
Oh yeah,
I love Disa. So, Disa countering Durin is like, it's just such a perfect couple.
Other than the Nori song, her like singing to the rock was like the part that I was like floored the most. I think
that those moments that have like in universe songs just hit on another level. It's both of them, or both. Was there more than one?
I don't know. Tolkien.
Yeah.
That's just Tolkien. That's Tolkien, man. Like there's songs in every goddamn chapter.
Well, it's like, lyrically, yes, but like the way that they're done, I think is.
Oh no, they killed it.
That's the thing is, like, in the books, I would say those are some of my least favorite parts.
Oh, I on rereads I skip.
Because they have honestly, like when you're just reading them,
I don't need to read
they
like
don't
Tom
have
Bombadillo
a flow to them at all. Like they're not lyrical. They're just they're more poem than song. But like it's the way that they're brought into like, and it's like the Hobbit movies. Like this is so much better than what they did with the songs in that. Like it's just
other than the Misty Mountain song in the first one, 100% agree. That first song is fire, but no, it's listen,
good.
Man,
it's good. I just this is so much beyond that, though.
I think it's like the far. I think Far and Away is what it's called, the Nori song, and like that is untouchable.
Yeah,
like it like. That is, if Tolkien would have cried listening to that. Like, that's what I think. Like, that is they nailed it.
And then he would have called somebody the devil because the small thing that can capture people's images that just goes into your pocket. He hated, he didn't like technology.
No, why would he? The dude loved like Norse language. You know what I mean?
Norse language and trees. That's all he cared about.
Hell yeah, me too. But I'm stoked. I'm stoked for the next season. I'm stoked for 5 seasons. I don't know how much you've read about the other offers that the Tolkien estate got.
Well,
from like Netflix and HBO Max, and like I'm so glad they went with this story instead of that other
and it's
stuff.
even more complicated now because the Embracer Group then bought the Lord of the Rings, and so they don't own all of Middle Earth, but they own the Lord of the Rings, but not the Second Age.
Yeah, I think it's just the Third Age stuff.
Yeah,
so if I remember correctly.
So it's this extra convoluted thing of like,
and then the whole estate's it's up for sale this year at some point, right?
Maybe
I was reading.
I don't know that detail.
Either way, like shopping. Like I think somebody like Netflix called it like.
Dude,
doing phases like Marvel for Lord of the Rings, and I was like, I would die.
Netflix,
like I would die.
If Netflix got this, or not even this show, but like a show with Middle Earth, it would be so low budge visually, and then
it wouldn't be the same, man.
And then they would blame people for not watching it despite its greatness, but realistically, like people would be like, it looks bad, we can't watch it. It's I can't, like I could see another streaming service doing it justice. Like I could see maybe
HBO would have been,
maybe
HBO
not now
would have nailed it,
maybe not like current HBO, like Warner Brothers Discovery HBO, I don't know, but like I mean like it would have to be like legitimate 8 years ago, maybe. HBO, right? Yeah. But like I could see that kind of working as well. But it's weird to say like I'm glad Amazon got a thing, as if they can't just buy everything they want. But like I'm glad it wound up in the creative hands that it did within Amazon, because
McKay and
the two guys who have like done nothing,
done nothing, but read Lord of the Rings 6,000 times apparently.
So yeah, I'm happy with how it wound up, and I'm really excited to see how it goes. And this is me feeling like somebody watching The Sopranos 15 years ago, where I'm like, when I would like it now, please.
It's honestly like, and I felt the same way with House of the Dragon. I was just like, oh, I have to wait. We have to wait a year now. I have to wait a year for either of the I miss the week to week content a lot. Like it's nice to binge a show, but like I don't feel any attachment to it when I watch.
Well, that's the thing, is you actually want to like have conversation with people when it's week to week.
Yeah, I mean, I literally did like half my staff was watching Rings of Power, and we were just shooting the shit about Rings of Power every Saturday morning, or every Saturday during pre-shift. You know what I mean?
And that's the thing, is like this. I'm like, Andor luckily is a longer season. It is 12 episodes,
Oh, really?
And it's just over halfway through now.
It's next on my list.
Dude, it's real good. But
I've heard really good. Listen,
that's my only show right now, and I had 3 going at the same time because Rings of Power and She-Hulk were both going at the same time, and that was the most TV I was ingesting in years at any given time. I'll watch, like, it'll be like a Marvel show and then a Star Wars show and then a Marvel show because that's the cadence.
We definitely are like got some stuff going on right now, which is good.
Yeah. But
I mean, like, I'm glad Andor's worked out.
My point was, I'm in a void now.
Yeah,
like, I have Andor, luckily, but now I went from watching 3 hours of TV within a couple of days because it was like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Well, Wednesday, Thursday, Thursday night, really. But like,
shout out to these companies for releasing these shows on different days of the week. Like, thank you so much.
Well, Disney originally wasn't doing that, but they realized they had to. But then on top of that, because that's what was happening with Obi-Wan and Miss Marvel. And they were like, oh, people are only watching one of them at a time. Okay, we got to change that. But the thing with Disney versus Amazon, it's like, for the love of God, Disney, stop releasing it at midnight West Coast time. Please. Because it's like, even the people on the West Coast are like, you're releasing this at midnight, this sucks. And I'm like, they're releasing it at 3 a.m. for me. Like, this is terrible. And so I would like if that changed, but also, like, thankfully with Rings of Power, it was somewhat more reasonable. Like, once basketball started, or football rather, and they have Thursday night football. It would just be
right after football, essentially, yeah.
Yeah, and so I was like, well, at least I know it'll be like tonight. But before football started, it was like they would pop their shows 8 o'clock East Coast time. Like Invincible, Critical Roles, Legend of Vox Machina, that stuff was popping at like 8 p.m. It was awesome, and I would love for that to happen again. But probably
just
won't.
like, I mean, listen, like, just drop stuff like it's on
prime time
cable. Yeah. Like, why would you not? Why not rip viewers off of TV?
Yeah.
Like, to watch, to stream stuff, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, man, listen, hey, like, you know, every show is going to have haters, and that's fine if you don't like it. I thought it was great. I, like, the people in my life who like nerdy shit thought it was great. It definitely, like, I'll take 5 seasons.
Yeah,
like I'll take Syndicate, the Silmarillion. I'll go 20 seasons deep on a Silmarillion show. Let's rock, baby.
Well, that's going to be probably somebody else if they do that. Well, so
I don't know. Yeah. Let's see how much this show made for Amazon, and then maybe Bezos will cut a check. But
he's not really in charge anymore of that. So, but yeah, cool. Well, I guess I'll see you in a year. Talk about season 2.
Hopefully something between now and then comes out we can talk about. But
yeah,
I'll definitely listen, man. This and dinosaurs are always in my wheelhouse. So whenever you need me, I'm here for you.
Perfect. Hopefully some more dinosaurs. Maybe they'll bring them together. Maybe there will be dinosaurs.
Please God, don't.
In Middle Earth.
Please God, don't do that. Like, I'm good without a Jurassic Park movie for like 8 years, please.
Yeah,
10 years.
I'm okay with that too. Cool, man. Well, thanks for coming back on. And until next time, bye.